Hello, everyone. We want to welcome you to this evening that's titled I'm Not Okay. We want to thank you for joining in on time. We're going to have a quick song just to settle us in and bring us to a place of just being rested. And then we'll have the dialogue starting off soon. So thank you for joining us. Let's just listen to this song for the next 5 minutes.
When you try your best but you don't succeed, when you get what you want but not what you need, when you feel so tired that you can't sleep, stuck in a reverse, and the tears come streaming down your face. When you lose something you can't replace, when you love someone but it goes to waste, could it be wrong?
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I think we've lost Prakrit and the song, therefore. Sorry about that. This is the Zoom world, and you know things can change at any point in time. But I want to welcome you in this evening and say it's our joy to have you with us. It's such a privilege to be together in one place like this and talk about things that matter. Even as we start, just want to ask this question saying, how are you doing? How are you all doing? This question most often gets answered with a very spontaneous, I'm okay, I'm doing well, or I'm fine, thank you. And this is despite us being unwell physically, emotionally, or even relationally. This evening, we're therefore learning to say, I'm not okay when we're struggling on the inside. And understanding what helps us get okay when we're not okay, especially emotionally not being okay. My name's Nathan, and I lead this church called Powai Connect, which is the neighborhood church in Powai. And I love Powai. I live, work, and worship in this beautiful neighborhood called Powai. Yes, you heard me right. I worship. I'm a man of faith. I believe in God. And because I believe in God, I believe in science. And I believe the beautiful truths that science reveals to us about how God made us and how He desires us to be. Our conversation, therefore, today, this evening, is with a person who's qualified to speak about the science behind our minds and our emotional health. Joining me this evening from the mental health capital of India, Bangalore, is Rebecca Davida. Rebecca is a mental health expert and practices in family and marriage health therapy. She also specializes in post-abortion and crisis pregnancy counseling. While Rebecca and her husband are my childhood friends, and I needn't thank her, I want to officially, on behalf of Powai Connect, thank you, Rebecca, and on behalf of everyone who's joining, thank you so much for your time, for being with us, and for just helping us in this very key need, especially given what's happening around us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and share what I can and answer some questions. And yeah, I'm excited.
Super, super. Well, we're excited, but things around us don't seem as exciting. And I'm going to go ahead and straight in. Therefore,
Sure.
uh, Rebecca, you've been involved in this field for quite some time, and you have a lot of clients. You have a great company that's going in this area, helping so many people across. I just want to ask you, what are some major complaints with regard to mental health that you receive following the pandemic's outbreak, and especially so after the second wave? What are you hearing? What are some concerns that you've been hearing from people?
Right. Yeah, so I think that we've been noticing a lot of very unique mental health challenges that we haven't seen before. And I think that a lot of people came out of the first lockdown pretty okay. Like the first lockdown was, people were excited. It was new. A lot of people were getting a chance to work from home for the first time. So everything was exciting. And I don't think anyone expected it to be on more than a year hence. And so this lockdown that's happening the second time, we're seeing like a resurgence of a lot of mental health issues that probably people had dealt with already. Like people had already dealt with depression, had already dealt with anxiety, had already dealt with a lot of mental health concerns, and now coming back showing symptoms again. So what we're seeing is like this general sense of almost slipping down the continuum of mental health. So I think all of us are going through that time of slipping down that continuum, and so we're seeing more and more of that. A lot of people are coming in because of the isolation, because of lack of support systems, because of just generally things going on for so long, so much uncertainty. So I think a lot of people are just experiencing just prolonged struggles with their mood and with anxiety, and that's what we're seeing. So I just wanted to kind of show this image. I think this helps us understand what I was talking about in terms of mental health continuum. So I'm just going to put that up now. Yeah, so this is the mental health continuum, and we are all situated somewhere on this spectrum, right? So we can either be, I think a lot of us were on the green end of the spectrum, we would have liked to be on the green end of the spectrum. So all of us are
Yeah.
there. And I think that what we're seeing is that everyone's sliding down the spectrum. So it's not just people who were already struggling, but like a lot of us, all of us have found that we are going through phases where we're just surviving, stages where even days when we're struggling. And so people who were already in crisis before are just kind of really getting to that place where a lot of symptoms are showing up again. So I think that expectation that I don't have to always be surviving, I don't always have to be excelling, I'm not okay.
Yeah.
I think that is important to know. We are all sliding down the spectrum, so you're not alone in that boat.
Yeah. And we've heard about something in the center right now, the word languishing, and we've been talking about that.
Yeah. And I think that sense of just not feeling like yourself, feeling like a little bit disconnected from the things that you were passionate about before, things that excited you, that brought you joy, just everything just suddenly feeling a little bit flat, just feeling a little bit unexciting. And
Yeah.
that is something that we're seeing a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Rebecca, I'm just cognizant of the fact that some of us here have been affected by COVID ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And some of us have even lost family to this pandemic. Lost loved ones, lost friends, lost colleagues, people we thought we'd say hi to again and have lunch over the table, not there with us any longer. And to such people, we want to share our condolences and say we're really sorry for what you're going through. We're really sorry for the loss you experience. Losing someone in the meant no space to bid a decent fill. Grieve properly. What be some to cope well with this loss?
So grief is a very complex and complicated journey, and I think that a lot of us deal with grief differently, and it comes to us in different times, in different ways. And I think that one of us, I think we have to always have this image of our journey with grief as being a journey. It's not going to be something that it happens, I deal with it, and I get over it. And I think that a lot of people have this idea that this get over it mentality, like okay, now you felt sad, or you've been sad for a while, like, okay, now that it's about time to get over it. But grief and loss is a very complex journey that kind of takes us through a lot of different phases. And I think that the key, if you are experiencing loss and if you are experiencing grief at this point, is just to be really patient with yourself. Even people who
Mm.
have reached the stage of acceptance sometimes circle back and cycle back and again go through phase of sadness. So it kind of comes in waves, and it does get better over time, but it is something that always stays with us. We never forget the person, we never forget the hurt, we don't ever forget the pain, but it just kind of dulls over time. So it is a process. I think that if you're going through grief right now, just be really, really patient with yourself. If you notice that you have been struggling with overarching feelings of sadness which you're not able to shake for days on end, that would be again be some place for you to stop and say, maybe I need to get help. Maybe I need to talk to someone and understand how I can help myself cope with this, because I'm not coping with this right now. But we having days or moments where I'm very sad or very angry at the world for for this thing happening to me or to my friend or to my family. These are all natural and normal. And as supporting also other people through grief it takes a lot out of us. It's a long
Yeah.
journey. Yeah.
Yeah. And can you talk a little bit about that, please? Supporting people in grief. For people like us, we want to call somebody. Should we call? Not call? I just don't know. I mean, do they need the space? Or what do we do with people who are friends and very close to us? We just have no words sometimes.
Yeah. I think that one of the things with complex emotions, especially sadness and grief, is that a lot of us just try to stay away. Because we are uncomfortable and we have all this fear that I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to make it worse. What if I call them and, I remind them of what has happened? And so we have a lot of complex confusion and around that. So we end up just staying away. And what happens when we stay away is that actually what the person who's grieving needs is support, and we're not
Mm.
able to extend support to them. So I would encourage you, if you have a friend or a family member who's going through grief, is to definitely reach out. You may not have the right words and you don't need to have the right words, but your presence is important. If you're just there with them and say, hey, I see that you're going through something and I'm here. I'm here to listen. I'm here to just be with you. I'm just, and even just that text that you send, I'm thinking about you, I'm sending you love, I know it's hard. Even just those things, I don't have to say, you'll feel better soon. It's, sometimes we want to assure them that
Yeah.
it will all be better, and we don't have the assurances for that. We don't know whether things will be better, but I can assure you that I will be there as you go through this time. So just assure them of the fact that you are with them and you stand with them and you support them, and that is enough.
Mm.
That a sense of support is what they need. So I would encourage you, please do reach out. Don't stay away because of your own discomfort. What people need as they're grieving is support.
Those are very helpful words, because I miss being with someone at the funeral. I miss
Mm.
giving somebody a hug when they've lost somebody, and sometimes you're just tongue tied. And this is really helpful to know that you can even call. And we're constantly therefore making decisions, Rebecca. And there's this constant requirement of making decisions, especially because we're faced with far more dynamic situations than we've ever dealt with before, and just too many variables at play, right? It's a simple thing like, which hospital do I go to if I'm unwell? Do I even let the doctor know? I mean, or just best to be at home and quarantine myself? Where do I leave my children if I'm quarantined? Or should I allow the maid to come home or not for some season? Or for some, it could even be whether I should take a loan for this treatment, or am I going to get stuck financially after that? Far worse, it could be a decision of this kind, where we're saying, how long do I continue to keep someone I love on the ventilator? These are tough decisions to make. So all of this is causing a kind of decision fatigue for some of us. And how does one deal with that and the prolonged anxiousness that continuous decision making is causing in us?
I think that that's a very, very heavy decision. Like, the examples that you've given are like extremely heavy decisions to make. And, I don't want to say that these decisions are easy or that you don't have to weigh a lot of pros and cons, and that there is a definite rationale behind it. But as a counselor, as a psychologist, what I can do is I can give you a tool that will probably help you with decision making. Now, as I give you this tool, I know that it is not, like a cover all for everything. Sometimes it may feel like a band-aid on a gunshot wound, but actually, at least it will help you bring down the anxiety that you feel in that moment as you make the decision. Now, the reason why we, as counselors and psychologists, are, we kind of give these tools is not so that you can solve all the problems and you make great decisions. It's to bring down the emotional distress that you're feeling as you make those decisions. So I'm just going to share another image with you. Just give me a minute. Okay. Okay, so this technique that we use is basically a technique that helps us make decisions better. It helps us make decisions faster. It makes us reduce the distress along with the emotion, right? So it's a very simple activity. Whatever the decision is, as much as complex as it is, like even the decision that you talked about, if I have to go to the hospital, what do I do with my kid? Like, do I even tell the hospital? How do I finance it? We have to just come back to this. What is it that I can control? And when we ask the question, what can I control? We always say, what can I control now? So it's never what can I control in the general, the world outside. Like I can control multiple things, but what can I control now? And I do this activity. It's better if it is done pen on paper. It's better if it's done like tactile, just writing it down. What can I control? And in the outer circle, I write, what can't I control? So, you can write in what I can control. You can talk about, I can control, picking the hospital. I can control maybe reaching out to a friend, telling them that, hey, in case I have to go to the hospital, can you just come in and look in on my kids? I can control those things. But what can't I control? I can't control a lot of things. I can't control how long I stay in the hospital. A lot of things I can't control. So I just focus on the things that I can control. Now that is hard. I know when the decisions are difficult, but what I would encourage you to do as you start doing this exercise to manage your anxiety is to just start small. Start with the smaller decisions. Start with the small things that give you anxiety. Like even like the anxiety of, should I stay in this job or should I quit? Like, is this a good time for me to do a career change? Even something like that. Start with this exercise. Like, what can I control now? What can't I control now? What am I feeling now about this job? So stay in the moment. And when we stay in the moment, the anxiety comes down. So we always talk about this in terms of the reason why I feel distress and anxiety is because I have got focused on the future. Because in the future, there are 100 unknowable things that can happen.
Yeah.
And staying in the present helps me manage anxiety. So I know it may not be able to manage all the different anxieties that you feel, but at least some.
And that's so helpful. I'm going to just request if you can allow the slide to be up for just a few seconds more. And would it be okay, Rebecca, to other people take a snapshot of the picture?
Absolutely. Please go ahead and take pictures and these resources that are there. I really want you to go back and read more. And if you're interested in the science of it, there are links to journals as well. Please go back and read these things, because none of these things are things that are good ideas that I'm coming up with today. They are based on research. They're based on science. And one of the things that I really want to share with you is, the rationale behind it. Why are we saying these things? Why do psychologists say these things? And there is reasons why we're saying it. So please, if you're interested and if you're curious, please go back and read these things.
Yeah, thank you so much for this. And I'm going to say, while I'm asking the questions right now, we're going to have time to take your questions as well. And so would you send your questions in the chat box? Just write to Q&A. There's a name of a particular login that's titled Q&A. You can just send your questions to Q&A and we'll handle those questions from there. And if you have any other doubts as well, any other questions as well, just write in there and we'll be handling those questions. Thank you, Rebecca. Yeah, maybe you could end the screen share as well. I don't know about you, but I know a lot of people here on this call as well. this pandemic has kind of displaced everyone in some way or the other. We're not in the city we used to be in. We're not meeting with the friends we would hang out with generally. We're not visiting the places we would regularly visit. And we're now having to live with someone around us all the time. Even the personal space a homemaker would once enjoy is now no longer available. Right? And so we thought this displacement was temporary. For some time, we thought it's a great holiday to be with the family for a longer time. But the normal we want back now seems like a mirage. And that's frustrating and making people feel quite hopeless. What would you have to say for this displacement and what it brings up emotionally?
Yeah, I think that definitely a lot of us, and I think these are one of the reasons why people feel this extended, just general ball of negative emotion, and they carry it with them a lot of the time. Like, I think that a lot of us, if we had to take a temperature of our mood or our emotions, would probably always be slightly towards the negative. It's always like, oh, I'm a little bit irritated, or I'm a little bit like, everybody's always in my space, or it's very loud, or I never get to do one work properly from start to end. And so all of us have these kind of this general ball of irritation, general ball of negative emotion that we are carrying with us because of this sense of displacement. So I think that understanding that these emotions are coming to us is very important. And so emotions don't kind of go away. They don't just kind of naturally flush out of our systems. There has to be a certain amount of self-care that we do in order to manage that ball of negative emotion that is just building. So I like this analogy of a pressure cooker. Like, emotions are a little bit like that. It's not like these emotions ever just go away. It's not like a sieve. It's a little bit like a pressure cooker. So it's constantly adding to the pressure. And it gets to a point where if you don't do enough self-care and if you're not noticing your emotions enough, there are bound to be these big explosions. So we're seeing this a lot, like people who, a lot of conflict in the house all of a sudden, people being very irritable, angry, rage issues all of a sudden, panic attacks. People who never had panic attacks before now reporting panic attacks, suddenly just breaking down and crying and inconsolable, not able to stop crying, wanting to shut down completely, like just I want to sleep and sleep and sleep, I don't want to do anything else. So we're seeing all these kind of pressure cooker moments in people's lives, and they're playing out differently. And usually the thing that sets off the pressure cooker will be a very small thing, it'll be a very tiny, very non-event thing, but it's not that event, it's that entire building up of emotions. So we have to be aware of emotions. And I think that if there is one thing each of you take away from this call is, just being more aware of emotions, and, you have to take care of it. Like when we talk about it's not okay, once I admit it's not okay, then what? Like I then need to start listening to my emotion, taking cues, like why is this coming to me? Like, why am I feeling so upset? And then finding ways to calm, finding ways to get back to a sense of groundedness and peace. And that is very, very important, because otherwise, see, these situations, like you said, Nathan, are not going to resolve themselves. Like we're not going to see a solution today or tomorrow. We are going to stay in this sense of displacement for a long time. So I have to start doing my self-care now. I can't just keep holding on to one day this will get better, then I'll be fine. Like, but we don't know when. So I have to start the self-care today to be okay now.
Wow, thank you so much. I don't know if my wife spoke to you about anything, the triggers. But just want to say this again. I think it's a great segue, Rebecca, and say, when do I know it's time to go beyond self-care, to get some professional help for my mental care? And how do I know whether I've lost it?
Yeah, I think that it's never, like, I think that, of course, there are people who have those moments where you're just like, okay, I definitely need help, and and it's great. Like, I think that happens, but a lot of us tend not to notice the signs till things get out of hand. So I think that some of the good things to notice is, have I been feeling a particular mood for a long time? Like, have I been feeling depressed for a long time in the sense, like weeks on weeks, I've not had my mood okay. I've been suddenly crying a lot, having bursts of emotions. I've suddenly having a lot of panic attacks, like just repeatedly for every time I read a news article, I feel like I'm getting breathless, or I'm going to faint, or the stomach is getting queasy. So then obviously something is not right. The other thing that a lot of a lot of people come when they come to a psychologist for the first time, they expect the psychologist to ask them like a lot of questions and then give them like a, you're like this, you're like that, this is your personality, this is, this is your neurosis. And but actually psychologists start by asking very basic questions. They say, have you been sleeping, have you been eating, have you been, isolating yourself? And we start with those basic questions because, it doesn't matter how anxious you're feeling if you're sleeping just 1 hour or half an hour or 2 hours in the night. So we have to start by dealing with the basics of your mental health. So a lot of the times we need to notice these things. So another good check to know if I need help is to notice if have I been sleeping okay, like have I had this huge disruption to my sleep where I've not been sleeping for days on end. I've been sleeping maybe an hour, 2 hours of good quality sleep. The rest of the time, I'm just kind of tossing and turning on the bed, and I don't know whether I'm sleeping properly. The other thing is, have I not been eating properly? Have I just kind of, having 1 or 2 meals in a day, and even then my appetite's gone? Have I
Yeah.
wanted to isolate myself? Have I not, stepped out of my bed in a while? So those are markers to understand, okay, now I need help. And of course, the big thing, like all of a sudden, if I'm noticing that there are a lot of negative thoughts in my mind where I'm thinking about harming myself, whether I'm thinking about hurting myself, that would be like the big red flag to immediately stop and say, okay, this is not a good path for me to be on.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. And you talked about negative thoughts, and I think we just constantly kind of have this firing of bad news at us. And so I just want to bring this and say, how does one deal with repeated bad news, constant negativity, and multiple requests for help? And the papers are full of bad news. We hear about, I mean, thankfully, we've just crossed that phase where we heard about people dying for oxygen, but we've just heard so much of all that. What do we do with all this negative thoughts? I mean, should we just shut out the news? What would help?
So I don't think that, we, each one of us, I think here are a part of that, a place. We have that sense of privilege where, a lot of us have been able to transition to work from home. We have jobs and, some amount of, stability and things like that. So I think that we are not in a position to really tune off the news
Yeah.
completely and say,
Yeah.
I don't want to know what's happening in the world. Like, I just want to be an ostrich. I think that we have to know what's happening because we have to know that, what's happening in the world. But, the news pie is huge. So I have to take bite-sized portions of the news pie. I can't consume it whole and expect to be okay with it. There's just way too much out there, and you're just kind of bombarded by a lot of stuff. So you have to be able to take it in chunks that is digestible, and you're able to process it well. So I wouldn't say that cutting off the news is a good idea, but I think that how I consume the news is good. So I think that one of the things that is a good idea is the news feeds are a way in which we consume news where I'm not in control of the news feed. I just see things. I'm just constantly seeing things. So that is probably not a great way of being intentional about how I intake or ingest news. But having kind of having access to certain websites or certain times in the day when I go and read articles is probably a better way of doing it. But again, always be aware that everything that you take in adds pressure to the pressure cooker. So I have to be responsible and take control of what I'm letting in. So that's why bite sizes.
Yeah. And you mentioned this, that we have these cycles of negative thought. And sometimes they could be like really vicious cycles which kind of drain you downwards and make you feel really sad and just want to let go of things. And I don't want to know anything. I don't want to be with anyone right now. And what could you do when you're in that negative train of thought? What would help us move to some place of positivity?
So we can't supplant a thought with a thought. And I think that a lot of us try to do that. Because I'm in a spiral of negative thinking, let me now think of something positive. And, that very rarely works because, the negative thought's very loud, very strong, it has a lot of just very strong roots, right? So if I try
That's so
to
true.
supplant it by a positive thought, usually the positive thought's like very quickly disregarded and I'm back in my negative spiral. So when we talk about kind of, if I want to get out of a negative thought spiral, I have to replace it with a body thing. I have to do something physically in order to get myself calm. So we have all these grounding techniques, we have all these breathing techniques, these kind of visualization techniques, these body
Mhm.
relaxation techniques, and these are great to kind of cut that spiral.
Mhm.
So there are different ways in which we can do that. Like there are apps that help you do it. There are certain, of course, like if we pray, we worship, we, even like just kind of, just sometimes just listening to music. Sometimes it could be as simple as, just washing your hands. It's always a body thing. It has to be something to do with your body that helps you. Sometimes, some people even just kind of, to just shake off that thing, just get up and do like burpees, 10 burpees, and that is a very, very powerful way to cut the spiral. And it
Yeah.
seems insane, but actually one of the things that it does is that because it is that quick snap thing that I can do in the moment, and it just grounds me back to the moment, and it helps me calm my body down. So always a body thing. That's why, people say, oh, get up and dance, get up and hear some loud music and dance. That's another great grounding thing. So find your grounding technique, whatever works well for you. Sometimes it may not be one thing, it may be a bunch of different things that works well, but find it. You have to know what to do to calm yourself. So a lot of us don't know,
Yeah.
and that moment when we're spiraling, we're just spiraling and freaking out. So figure out what works, what is your grounding that is powerful, and your hook, a good hook for you.
Yeah. And so if I'm hearing you right, you're saying that when you're in that negative train and you're down, just in that spiral, you're saying ground it, get into the moment with the body thing, and then maybe try the positive
Then
thought.
yeah, then maybe try the positive thought, then try a bunch of breathing techniques, then go back to the exercise that I had shown before. What can I
Yes.
control in this, what can't I control? Let me just focus on things I can control. So that's another
Yeah.
very powerful reframing exercise that helps me. Okay, I can't control a lot of 100 things, but I can
Yeah.
control these two things that I can do now. I'll do that. And so I can't directly do that exercise when I'm spiraling, because again, I'm trying to supplant a thought with a thought. So
Yeah.
it's good to then do the grounding first, calm your body down, and then do these exercises that help you come out
Yeah.
of it. Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to ask a question on behalf of my friend Nathan. Would pizza and cheesecake and Netflix be grounding techniques?
Right. So one of the things about things like Netflix, things like watching videos, the thing about these things is that they're not really processing emotion. Basically what they're doing is they're distracting you. So the pressure in the pressure cooker is still there, but
Mhm.
I have just kind of stopped focusing on it. And that is not a great way of dealing with it, because what we are noticing now is that people who also sit and end up watching a lot of Netflix or YouTube end up saying that I watch it, but it's not
Yeah.
like it's bringing me any joy, or I'm not
Yeah.
liking it. I'm just watching it because compulsively I have to have noise, or I can't sleep without the screen, or I don't want to sit in silence anymore. And and so we are surrounding ourselves with this noise and with this distraction, so that I don't know, our hope is that I'm dulling the thoughts, I'm dulling the emotion. But actually what it's doing is it's just making us really mentally fatigued. It's not really helping
Mhm.
us process emotions. It's not actually helping us cope in any way. So
Mm.
long term, that's not a great way of processing emotion. I have to notice, I have
Mm.
to bring my body down. I have to then think about something. I have to think about a positive way of reframing this experience. That's the only way to process emotions well. I
Mhm.
can't expect to just kind of supplant it with something heavier in that moment by eating something, by just maybe having a lot of alcohol, or just watching movies, or just smoking or smoking up. And sometimes we are seeing a lot of addictive behaviors as well. People just
Mm.
now suddenly become reliant, like I can't do without having some alcohol before sleeping. And so people are becoming addicted to these things because we are using it to deal with emotion, and that's a recipe for addiction. So whether it is Netflix, cake, biryani, movies, alcohol, they all have the same thing. They all kind of dull the pain in the moment, and so that's why they are very addictive.
Mm.
Be aware of that there is a tendency for that to happen.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. My friend will be very helpful. Just to say this, some of us, Rebecca, we and it's for me as well. I sometimes feel very emotionless in phases. Right? We've gotten so used to what's happening now that we don't think we have a problem, and neither are we feeling great. uh, Especially for us people, like we've not had anybody within the family maybe fall sick. We're not in Bihar or UP or in the hinterlands where there's no oxygen, there's no hospital care. Thankfully, by God's grace, we're in a place of privilege right now. So we're just feeling very emotional, very numb in that sense. What would help us, people like us?
So, flat affect, or kind of not feeling emotion, is also one of those things that, again, it's not like I'm not feeling the emotion. So it gives us the sense like we just have this feeling that, hey, nothing is affecting me. I've just, I'm feeling okay. But actually, a lot of people who have flat affect actually also have a lot of rage and anger. So it's not like your emotions are going away. It's just that they're
Mm,
coming out as in a completely different way, in a completely different form. And so, what we notice with people who have flat affect is that there's flat, there's nothing, nothing, nothing. And then there's this huge spike of anger. And then again, nothing, nothing, nothing. Again, there's this huge, and the anger comes out of like seemingly nowhere. It'll just be something like very small. And then there's a huge spike. And so, people who actually have flat affect tend to be a little bit more harder to live around, and for their family members, because nobody has a sense of when this explosion of anger is going to happen. So
yeah.
we notice that the family members around the person who has flat affect don't have flat affect. They are very
Yeah.
tense, they have a lot of anxiety. I don't know what's going to set them off, what I should say right, what I should say wrong. So
Yeah.
what I would say to someone who has flat affect, and I do think that flat affect is something that happens more to men than women. It doesn't I think women in general tend to have a connection with emotions, a lot more
Mm,
vocabulary around expressing emotions, have a lot more acceptability around emotions. So I think women tend to express better. Not all, again, it's not a generalization, but generally we see a lot of flat affect in men. And so what I would encourage people who are going through flat affect to really take out the time to do these exercises of noticing what am I feeling.
mhm,
Now, naming an emotion is an extremely powerful skill and an extremely powerful tool. When I
mm,
name the emotion, I usually am able to bring up within myself what I'm feeling and the affect as well.
mhm,
So, for people who have flat affect, what I would encourage you to do is, generally try to feel that feeling. What am I feeling? Name it, give it a name. Am I feeling embarrassed? Am I feeling tired? Am I feeling humiliated? Am I feeling frustrated? Am I feeling lonely? Am I feeling neglected? What am I feeling? I need to fix a word on it. Once
mm,
I fix the word and I get better at a vocabulary, I'll then be better at bring out the emotion and get out of this flat affect. It's not a great place to be in long term,
yeah.
and it's not a, it's generally not, it's not a healthy place to be as well. So what I would encourage you to for people who feel this, who have flat affect, is to try as far as possible to break up the emotion. So I'll just kind of, again, I just wanted to kind of show an image. So one of the ways in which we do that is through, um, yeah. So having a bank of words is good, because a lot of the times if we ask a person who has flat affect, what are you feeling? They will come up with nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
I've been not feeling nothing. I was feeling nothing in the morning. I'm feeling nothing now, and I'll probably go to sleep feeling nothing. And so you have to have visual cues. So when you start the exercise with people who have flat affect, is I usually give them a bank of words and I say, no, don't say nothing. Pick the closest one from these words.
Mm,
Fix on something, even if it is a, you're feeling it a zero 0.1, that's fine, just fix it, pick something.
mm,
And
mm,
so once the word comes, we can then bring up the emotion more. So what I would suggest to people who have flat affect is, start naming emotions. Again, there is a, if you can, if on this slide, there's also a really interesting journal article on the power of naming and labeling emotions.
mhm,
It's extremely powerful in managing emotions, whether it is the lack of emotion or peaks and troughs of emotion. Naming emotions is always the first step. So, there's this joke, Nathan, in like among all these, when you see a movie and all, when they say, go to a psychologist and the first thing
mm,
they'll ask you is, what are you feeling? And it's true, we do ask what you're feeling a lot, and we ask a lot of questions about feeling because it's so powerful. A lot of us
Yeah.
don't focus on the emotion. We don't know what we're
So
feeling.
true.
So psychologists have to ask you, hey, what are you feeling? What are you feeling? How do you feel about that? How is that landing with you? And those are important questions for us to ask ourselves.
Yeah. And I realized this a lot of times when you ask this question, because even in my coaching conversation, when I ask people saying, how are you feeling about that? It's a very rational answer people give. They
Yeah.
don't give you a feeling. But
Yeah.
how do you help people tap then into those feelings?
Yeah, because sometimes even I've worked with people who say, especially in the couples counseling context, because I work with a lot of couples. I ask them, how do you feel about what your partners just said? I feel that she's not understanding what I am going
Yeah.
through. That's
Yeah.
not a feeling. That's not a feeling. You've gone back to your thoughts. You've gone back to cognition. What are you feeling? And a lot of the times it's a lot of processing just around that. No, actually I'm feeling really let down, and that's it. When I get to that emotion,
Mm.
it's like a big shift in the session, because when I just go back to I'm feeling like this person's not understanding me, the other person respond, but I do understand you, but no,
Yeah.
how do you understand? And we're kind of gone in this cognitive thing that is just fight, fight, fight.
Mm.
And one of the big ways in which, as couples counselors, we help people come back is by asking them, no, no, don't tell me what you think, tell me what you feel. And that is just a big shift
Mm.
in sessions. When people are able to communicate on an emotion level to each other, it's a big shift. It's
Yeah.
extremely powerful.
So true. So true. And I wanted to ask this, for people, I mean, there are people who have flat affect and you have the spikes. What if you're not that person, but you're married to that person or you live with that person? That's tough, right?
Yeah.
How can I help somebody who's having flat affect and I love them, so I want to see them not destroy themselves?
Yeah. I think that, one of the things that we can only do with people is just have more conversations around what you feel and give them space to talk about what they feel.
Mm.
Make it safe for them to go through that place of exploring, what am I feeling?
Yeah.
It's probably not the best time to do it in the middle of a conflict. That probably not be the
Yeah.
best time to do it. But even, when things are less intense, when there's just a conversation, when you're just having, a conversation over tea, to be able to just have that moved conversations to a deeper level, and let it not just be at the functional level where
Mm.
we're just talking about, did you pay this bill, and we have to do this today, and you have to clean the house, and you have to do this. And so often nowadays what we're seeing is, especially among couples, the conversation is just extremely functional. It's
Mm.
just like, get this done, get that done, did you do this, did you do that? We're not really creating space to help each other go through a process what's happening. So in moments where you're just kind of sitting and having a cup of tea, to be able to say, hey, that thing happened yesterday, how do you feel about it? Or what is going on with you, you became quiet after that, like what happened? Just to be able to allow the person to safely process emotions, I think that is good, a good safe place to start. But if the other person's having a lot of anger, I can understand that partners are very concerned and very scared. So I would say that don't put yourself in positions where you are in danger. Definitely then would be a place to get help for your partner.
Mm. True. I'm feeling convicted uh, about the kind of conversations I've been having. But I must say that it is tough for people to move beyond the function because there's just so much work to do right now. I mean, you're working from home, you've got children to manage, children are at home. So it's summer holidays, but they're with you. You're the summer camp and you're working and everything's happening at the same time. And you're a mother yourself, Rebecca, and you're married to a husband who's working full time from home. You have a toddler at home. How does one cope with this? Where do you find the space and the time to even have such meaningful conversations?
I think that there is no perfect answer for that. I think that it is important to be intentional about it. So we power a lot of big areas in our life. Like each of you powers these big areas. Like you power your work, you power your marriage, you power your friends, you power your family of origin, you power your children. And so there are these big chunks of your life that are very important. There are smaller chunks as well, your kind of your society, your building, your acquaintances circle, there are a lot of smaller things as well, but there are these big chunks, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that we assume is that, hey, if these chunks are there, they will just continue and I will just continue, right?
Yeah.
And they'll just happen by default of us living under the same roof, or they will just, because I am my parents' kid, those relationships will continue. But we have to be intentional about these relationships, especially as we become adults. We have to be intentional about what am I putting into this relationship to make it thrive. So especially with marriages, with our kids, like if everything I'm saying is either neutral or negative, then I need to really think about whether I am really investing in this relationship to nurture it, or is it just kind of survive? Is this just surviving? Am I just kind of doing the basic minimum to make it survive? And in order for it to survive, we need to have better conversations. We need to have intentional conversations with our children, with our husbands, with our wives, with our parents, with our friends, even with our work colleagues. Like there's always be a time when I have to better myself, upskill, whatever, right? And all this comes because I intentionally think about how do I make this better, how do I make this big silo of my life better. And so we do that with work very well, because the payoff is in monetary things. I can see a point in my bank account, so I know whether I'm doing well or no. But with other things, whether it is family or kids and parents, I can't see a number. So we tend to not focus on those things at all. It has to be intentional. I have to intentionally think, today, did I do anything for my marriage? Did I do anything with my kids that was positive? Did I do anything with my parents that kind of nurtured that relationship? I have to keep thinking in terms of intentionally putting things into those relationships to make it thrive. Without intention, it doesn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And so thanks to you, I'm going to do something interesting tomorrow. But how do I remember these things on Monday and Tuesday when the work week hits again? And how can I help myself be reminded of all these very intentional things I need to do?
Space and silence. And I think that a lot of us don't like to have space and silence. We don't like silence. So when we have time, it's usually, I watch a video, or, I'll do something. We are always doing something. And so we pack our day from morning, we get up till the night that I go to sleep. I'm just doing stuff. And even if I have nothing to do, I'm watching something. I'm just listening to something. It's a podcast, it's a YouTube video, it is a TV show that's running. I work with some people who are like, even when I'm working on another screen, I have to have like friends going on because I can't even work now without that distraction of something familiar happening. And so that's so much more when we're eating, so much more when we are just by ourselves. Even like when a lot of us, when we cook and when we clean, there's always a screen going on. I'm constantly entertained. So there's no room to stop and think, hey, have I invested in my marriage? Well, have I invested in my kid today? Or have we just kind of gone functional, or I have been negative, telling them, don't do this, don't do that. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Why? So it's, I have to have space. I have to have silence. And then I'll be able to think, hey, what do I need to do more? But a lot of us don't like the silence, because along with the silence comes anxiety. We don't like to feel the silence brings a lot of negative emotions, because once the stillness comes, the emotions come up. So, but again, all these are tools in which we process and manage emotions in a healthy way. So the first step is just being, can I just allow myself to sit in just 5 minutes, not even half an hour, 1 hour, like forget about that. 5 minutes, can I sit 5 minutes in just complete silence and allow the emotion to come to me, allow myself to process it? That's it. That's the first step. After that, I can start thinking about putting into practice this naming emotion, control. I can do all these things, but it needs to come out of a place of groundedness and silence.
That's very helpful. Space and silence. And you touched upon this, but I want to bring this up a little more, because a lot of people here who work some way or the other, some vocation or the other. And work has changed for a lot of people. Right? Some are working from home. Some have no option but to travel to work because they're supporting somebody else working from home. And some have just been out of work. They've lost their jobs because of the pandemic. What are some key concerns you notice surrounding work, Rebecca? And what would you suggest for these?
So one of the key things that we're noticing in terms of work is one is that's definite lack in motivation. People are not as motivated as they were before. So just finding it hard to do, like the people who were, I've worked, some of the people that I work with were like, I used to be, I used to always think about my ratings and things like that at work. But this time I don't even care. I don't even care
Yeah.
what rating. I don't even care if when they're rating it. It doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah.
so one is that just sense of lack of motivation, lack of interest. We're also seeing a lot of people with a lot of confusion, like not
Mm.
being able to focus on a thought long enough to think it through and make a decision. Like, is this good for me? Is that not good for me? Like, just not being able to think clearly. People who never had problems with decision making before, but
Yeah.
having issues with decision making now. And just general, like, having days when you're not able to focus at all, just distracted. It's already like 4 or 5 in the day and I haven't really done anything at work, and that is something we're seeing a lot of. So I think that work has been affected a lot, but there are a lot of companies that are trying as far as possible to
Yeah.
manage expectations and things like that. So what I do tell people is that don't be apologetic if you have days when you are not okay and you
Yeah.
can't manage it. And if you really need to even scale back expectations, please go ahead and do that. Don't wait and keep putting yourself in that situation where you are always feeling the pressure. If you really need
Mm.
to take your foot off the pedal for some time, do it.
Mm.
Do it for your own mental health, do it for your own
Yeah.
sanity and stability. Don't be apologetic about it, because it's not like you are going through it alone or something strange and unique is happening just to you, and you have to hide it and just keep a brave face on and keep soldiering on. That's not necessary. Please
Yeah.
take your foot off for some time and take some space. And what we've noticed is when people do take some space, regroup, get over the physical tiredness, ground back, that they're able to go back. It's not like it's a long
Mm.
term thing. With some intervention, with some self care, you are
Yeah.
able to get back. But give yourself space to do that. It may take a couple
Mm.
of days to get that balance back. Please do that and come back. Don't keep
Yeah.
putting yourself in that pressure situation.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. I just want to say it here that we have about 10 minutes more for the formal 1 hour around this discussion, this dialogue. Uh, and we'll formally end at 7:30, but we're going to stay on. And Rebecca's been kind enough to stay on with us. And we're going to keep taking more questions as they come. It's going to be a time of just asking how many more questions you have for yourself. And so keep your questions coming in. Would you just type your question out to Q&A? That's a particular login that you can type your messages to, your questions to, and those questions are coming to me. And I see some of them are being answered already as well, but we'll keep taking those questions, so please chat them in. Rebecca, I must say this. Some of us feel extremely privileged to be healthy and successfully employed. We've got great ratings, some of us got bonuses as well. Having everything we need, in contrast to a lot of lack and loss outside of us, has made us feel a bit guilty actually, and privileged and undeserving. Some of us have not yet experienced loss of a loved one. What will help us, therefore, relate better with others who struggle? Maybe even be generous in such a time as this.
So I think that coming from a place of feeling guilt, like the only thing I can share, at least from my own personal experience of going through this and being a human being going through this, is that what how I have understood for myself is that I did not plan this. I did not
Mm.
plan to have a job that would transition to work from home. I did not plan to have everything, to have resources or any of these things. It wasn't because I was clever or smart. It just kind of happened because God was merciful towards us and our family. And I think that out of that comes a sense of how can I meaningfully engage with the world around me or people around me who are struggling. So I think that it does give us a sense of responsibility to be there for others. And again, how I be there for others is different. It's not
Mm.
always about money, it's not always about giving resources. There is a place and time for that, but also, am I able to give off my time? Am I able to give off my support? Am I able to call friends, relatives and support them?
Yeah.
Am I able to just be there for people who just need an encouraging word, or who just need someone to be able to tell them that, hey, I know you're going through a difficult time and I'm here for you. Just being able to do that, even just that, I think is significant. And I think that if our privilege gives us the impetus to be of service to others, I think that would be a great place to start.
Mm.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people deal with survivor's guilt, and also deal with a lot of sense of, how come I'm okay and other people are not. And
Mm.
again, that does not come from a simple place. Like, I don't think that that comes from just this experience. Usually people who have survivor's guilt and a lot of complex emotions around responsibility and self-blame, there is a lot of complexity around that, even in past experiences. So what I
Mm.
would suggest to that is that, see, if you're experiencing crippling amounts of guilt, a sense of responsibility and self-blame, it probably has deeper roots than just what's happening right now in this moment.
Mm.
So you need to explore that. Why is this
Mm.
crippling me now? Because then obviously there's something coming from much deeper than that. And
Yeah.
this is what we see, that people who have very complex emotions like this around self, especially around self-blame and guilt and shame, um, it's a lot of complexity of emotions that come from much further in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one kind of guilt, but the other one's also what we see so much nowadays. I mean, families being affected by COVID, almost everyone's gone, but I'm there.
Hmm.
Why not me as well? How can I just live without them alone? And just that entire thing, uh, for the naming it as survivor's guilt right now, how does one deal with that, Rebecca?
I think that for a lot of people, that also is their sense of recovery from grief. So again, let me just put that up so that we have a sense of that, of the of the stages of grief. Um, just one second. Yeah. So we have these different stages of grief that we go through, and kind of the stage where I am going through denial, where I'm going through depression, where I'm going through bargaining, why me, why not somebody else, why my family, are all actually stages of the grief
Mm-hmm.
journey. So again, as we go through grief and loss, a lot of times this sense of guilt and the sense of, or just sense of, why is this happening to me, and why should I be okay and other people are not okay, and that is a part of the grief. So we do experience grief
Mm-hmm.
as a part of that somebody close to me or someone I know has died, but we also experience grief as a collective, because of what's happening in the world around us. A lot of us are experiencing similar stages, but not because something directly has happened to me, but just because we are a part of this collective humanity that's going through something that is so devastating. So understand that there is collective grief, and we all go through the sense of collective grief. So you may go through these stages, but again, it's a journey, and as we go through grief and pain and loss, we get through this part of feeling anger. And I think in the social media is full of people just angry and raving and ranting about what's happening in India, and you go through sadness, and ultimately we get through to acceptance, but it is a journey. So be patient with
Mm-hmm.
yourself as you go through stages, and all these emotions have a place. And like I said
Mm-hmm.
before as well, these emotions are normal, natural, they are supposed to be there.
Mm-hmm.
But if I experience it disproportionately and continuously for a long period of time, it'll probably again be a place for me to stop and ask for help.
Mm-hmm. And that's one kind of people, but there's some who kind of get just numb on this. What can help reactivate our emotional taste buds in that sense, if I have to say?
Yeah. I think again, naming the emotion, holding space, silence. Again, that sense of, if you see on the graph, there is a phase where we get immobilized. So
Mm.
shock is one of those things where you just come and you just completely shut down. You have a complete
Mm-hmm.
shutdown response. So having
Mm.
those experiences again are normal.
Mm.
You will experience other emotions as well.
Mm.
Coming out of it, how quickly you come out of this again comes back to how well I'm doing my self-care, how well I'm
Mm.
processing my emotions. People who don't process emotions well, who don't take time to give themselves space to grieve their emotions and things like that,
Mm.
will tend to stay in this journey a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But kind of making sure that you're taking care of yourself through it, making sure that you are holding space for emotions, just helps you process these emotions just generally better.
Yeah.
And always we have support for that. So that is where counselors, psychologists, therapists, we all come in to help you go through these stages and give you the tools that you need to be able to go through these stages in a better way.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you so much, Rebecca. Um, I know you mentioned about taking professional help and when to identify that. But I must say this, and this is what I struggle as a certified coach myself, is that almost everyone calls themselves some life coach, relationship coach, this coach, that coach, and really the heart of coaching is not expressed in those moments. And so we see that with counselors as well. Almost everyone calls themselves a counselor, especially in India. Anyone who gives advice or gyan thinks of themselves as a counselor. So how do you find a right person of professional help, and how do you find a right counselor?
So there are different kinds of people who are there in the support space. So I just want to kind of talk about those different kinds of people so that you know whom to go to. So there are counselors. Now,
Mhm.
counselors are people who are embedded in different, kind of spaces, whether it is in the churches, whether they are in different communities and societies and helplines and crisis lines and things like that. And these people are counselors. Now, counselors basically are people who will listen, they will
Mhm.
be non-judgmental, they will definitely be confidential, uh, they will encourage, support, just kind of help you through and give you a safe place to vent. So they are a great resource to have.
Mm.
And again, they sometimes their services are maybe free of cost or even at a very nominal rate. So those kind of counselors are very, very important and very crucial, like, because they are the front line of a lot of support services. So if you know someone who is a counselor and you just need a safe place to talk and listen, have yourself listened to and encouraged and supported, counselors are great. Then you
So
have another. Yeah.
more like primary health care for the mental care.
Not Yeah, some of them are, but there are also people who are not primary care, but who are just there, who will be there, who will
Journey
they will
with you
not
in the
have, yeah.
yeah.
And they will not have like a specific degree or a qualification. They may have
Okay.
certificate courses in counseling and
Mm-hmm.
listening and things like that. So that is one group of people. We then have psychologists, psychotherapists. Now, psychologist, psychotherapist basically is the place where I fall in. Now,
Mm-hmm.
we are basically people who provide therapy. So we
Mm-hmm.
provide actual interventions for specific issues. So
Okay.
whether it is anxiety, depression, loss, marriage, trauma, addictions, child, adolescent, geriatric, cancer surviving, whatever, right? So there are different specialized therapists and counselors, and
Mm-hmm.
these therapists will basically be able to do interventions to help you go through the process. So their
Mm-hmm.
process is a little bit more streamlined. It's not just about listening and talking about your problems. They will do interventions with you. They will do sessions with you that will help you learn skills and process emotions. So they are very specifically focused on on deeper work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So these are the two, basically two big chunks of people, and then you have the other set of people who are psychiatrists. Now, psychiatrists are doctors and medical professionals. They are MDs basically, and
Mm-hmm.
they are the ones who prescribe medication.
Mm-hmm.
So a counselor and a psychologist will not be able to give you medication. So I think that's one of the big reasons why people don't go to counselors. They'll be like, oh, they'll medicate me. What if they tell me I'm crazy and they put me on some medicine? I'm always sleeping. Because I think a lot of us see our previous generation, our parents, where if you went to a medical doctor for any kind of psychiatric issue, you'd be just out of it. Like, they would just completely sedate the person. So we have that fear, and I don't want to be sedated, I don't want to become a vegetable. So when you go to a counselor, psychologist, they can't medicate you. So
Mm-hmm.
that is something for you to keep in mind. Only a
Yeah.
psychiatrist will be able to medicate you. Now, how do I know whom to go to? Don't be apologetic about trying and talking to a bunch of different people.
Mm-hmm.
Call up. Most counselors, most psychologists will have will give you the choice to just have a short call with them where you get to know them, whether you're a good fit. So ultimately a counselor, psychologist also is a human being, and this is a very deep relationship that you are going to build with them. So you have to see whether you get on with them. Sometimes I know these people who say, I went to this person for so many years, they are the best therapist in Bangalore, and I really hated them. I dislike them like a lot. And you don't have to just keep going with people because they have a big name, or somebody referred them. You have to find that fit with them. You have to feel like, I connect with this person gets me, or
Yeah.
I feel like I genuinely like this person, and I feel like they like me. And I feel like having that human connection is very important. So try out
Yeah.
and have a call with a bunch of different people, see whether you're a good fit with them, whether you are, their rates and your expectations in terms of price matches. Don't be apologetic for trying a bunch of different people till you fit and settle on one person whom you feel, okay, I like this person, they're a good fit for me. And again, with counselors and psychologists, like, we want you to tell us what you want and whether this journey is working for you. So if at any point you feel like, hey, I feel like we've not made any progress, or we're going too fast, or we're going too slow, do talk to your counselor. Don't just
Yeah.
keep going because you don't want to offend them.
Yeah.
This is your space. The counseling and therapy is your space. So be proactive in that space and say, hey, I want to focus on something else, or I don't like the journey of this.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Rebecca. I think this has just been great chatting with you. For those of you wondering how to get in touch with Rebecca, here's her website, and you can get in touch with her through the website, and she's available. And there are many more people she can refer you to as well. I mean, so just get in touch with us or with Rebecca. If you want to know more people in Bombay, in Powai, we can put you in touch with such people as well. I know I've overshot my time by 5 minutes, but wasn't that just worthwhile? Just spending time with Rebecca. And so I want to say, we want to formally end here. We will still be available even now for the next 20 minutes, asking more questions. I've got a lot of interesting questions I want to ask Rebecca. But for those of you, we know if you're there are pressing demands, we don't want to Zoom fatigue you right now. If you want to go, you can go. This will be available on YouTube as well for you to watch later. You can just Google out or just search for Powai Connect on YouTube, and you'll find our channel. And this talk will be available for you there, and many of the talks that you want to catch up on. But before you leave, we just want to ask you a question. I want to launch a poll right now and ask you a couple of questions. So here's the poll. How was this session for you? You can answer this. How was this session for you? Very helpful, not so helpful. And anything is fine, okay? You can answer what you feel like, but just help us get a sense of what we could do again for you like this. And another question is, when would you like to attend? Would you like to attend more such sessions by Powai Connect? And so let us know. We'll be happy to keep organizing this for our neighborhood, for people beyond the neighborhood. I know we have people from Pune, from Bangalore, from various parts of India. We're happy to keep doing this for you all. Just let us know what you thought about this. Right? We have 96% of the votes. I'm just going to end poll right now and show you what the poll looks like. Thank you. For me, it was definitely very helpful, and a lot of you thought it's helpful as well. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you for the time spent. I want to just, before you all leave, for those of you who want to leave, for those of you who want to stay, we will stay around here. But I just want to kind of bring in a song that can maybe just help us relax a bit, just to change the flow as well. Maybe just a one song for 5 minutes, and then we'll take up the questions thereafter. So I'm going to invite my friend Prakrit, who's going to sing for us a song and just maybe help us calm down. And then when Prakrit's done, we'll come back to again talking to Rebecca about the few more questions that you have. And so keep your questions coming in. Let your questions flow through in the Q&A chat, and we'll be happy to take them for you right now.
Check. Alright, this song that I'm going to sing is called Fix You by Coldplay. Many of us might have heard it. Alright, so just if you know the song, sing along with us. Otherwise, just sit and relax and listen to the song. When you try your best that you don't succeed, when you get what you want but not what you need, when you feel so tired that you can't sleep, stuck in reverse, and the tears come streaming down your face, when you lose something you can't replace, when you love someone but it goes to waste. Just could it be worse? Lights will guide you home and ignite your bones, and I will try to fix you. High up above or down below, when you're too in love to let it go. But if you never try, you never know just what you want. Lights will guide you home and ignite your bones, and I will try to fix you. Tears stream down your face when you lose something you cannot replace. Tears stream down your face, and tears stream down your face. I promise you I will learn from my mistakes. Tears stream down your face, and lights will guide you home and ignite your bones, and I will try to fix you.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much, Prakrit. You want to just put your hands together for him, use your emoticon reactions, whatever you feel like, and just let Prakrit know that we loved his song, loved his cover of the. Thank you. For those of you staying on for the next 15 minutes of asking questions that you posted in, if you still have questions, please bring them in. And I'm going to ask Rebecca. Yeah. Rebecca, I'm going to read for you a question verbatim because it's worded right, and I think it's important I read it the way it is. So here's a question. A friend of mine took the decision to pull the plug on her dad's ventilator just last night. He was in his 70s. She's taken it as a rational decision, but she's quite mixed up about whether she did the right thing. over the next few days, this person would like to walk with her friend through processing her thoughts and emotions. She's in a different city, in a different place right now, so they're not able to even meet together. What would some practical things be that these people can keep in mind? What would your suggestions be to handle this situation?
So I think that, obviously this is such a complex situation, and obviously your friend is going to go through, like, those stages of grief. She's going to go through a lot of conflict, inner conflict. Did I do this right? Did I make the right decision? And I think as a friend, the only thing you can do is kind of just support her and be there for her. Try to avoid telling her what to do, or that whatever you did was right, or just kind of being there for the person. I think that a lot of the times we tend to want to say something that will make them feel better, but being aware that there's nothing you can say that will make them feel better, but your presence, your being with the person is going to make them feel better. We put a lot of responsibility on our words, and because we do that, we end up a lot of the time saying things that may not be helpful. So just being aware that it's not about what you say, but just the fact that you are there. Continue to be there for your friend. Just allow her to vent, say, when people are going through grief, they say a lot of things, but just be there for the person. Allow them to say or be however they want to say or be and do things. And it is a complicated journey for you as well personally, because there is a lot of almost you are also kind of going through the same process as your friend, so there will be a lot of intense emotions that you are going through as well. So please take care of yourself as you do this. You can't give out of an empty well, so please keep making sure that you are taking care of yourself, that you are doing your self-care as well as you look after people around you. So what I would say is that, see, there is no right or there is no prescribed way of doing it. It's a difficult journey, it's a complex journey for your friend, and what you can do is just kind of be there, and as you're being there, notice that it's going to take a lot out of you as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Rebecca. There's one more which most people will relate with as well. The person says, I have a problem from the last 1 year, feel claustrophobic, I'm not able to sleep. It increases my stress levels. I can't concentrate on my studies. At the same time, I'm afraid of my career. The surroundings are very melancholic in that sense, and that's what they've expressed it as. How do you stay positive? How can one stay focused in such a time?
See, I think that we can't expect ourselves to be like how we were before. Definitely, we don't have our support structures. We don't have things that we used to do before. So, our self care has to look different. So, a lot of us, before, our self care used to be like, okay, if worst comes to worst, I'll go to a friend's place and study. I'll go to a coffee shop and study. I'd,
Yeah.
sit in the library and study. And that all those things, those kind of changing our experiences would help us. We don't have that anymore. So, you can't expect to be at that same level of studies or same level of focus. It's going to be harder to get by. So you will probably have fewer pockets of focus, and which will be few and far between. And just again, we have to learn to manage our expectations ourselves. A lot of us expect that the world has changed, it has collapsed around me, but I will still function. My usual 8 to 10 hours of work, I will still do that. I will still remain fit, and I will still cook all my meals, and I will still do everything. And we have this unrealistic expectation from ourselves to function as normal, but in completely not normal, in a completely not normal situation. So I think a lot of the times we have to manage our expectations. We have to relearn ourselves sometimes. We have to relearn how we are in this new world, in this new phase. And that may mean being kinder to ourselves and managing our expectations a little bit. What I would tell this person is that, for you, especially since you are struggling with claustrophobia and sleep, you probably would need to do a lot more intensive self-care. There are a bunch of different ways in which you can do that. I've talked briefly about them, in the session, but there are some really great apps that help you process these emotions and go through moments of stillness and groundedness, and they kind of keep reminding you, send you, good thing about apps is that they keep sending you reminders along the way. Hey, have you taken a moment to breathe this morning? Have you taken some moment for stillness? And they keep sending you these little reminders, which are really great. So what I would suggest is maybe something like that is good. I have bunch of apps that are really great, and I'll just put that up on the screen. You can try any of them. There are, of course, more than these also. But these are some good ones that are free of cost, which are great to start off with. So these are some good ones that help you go through visual imageries that calm you down. And especially for people who are struggling with sleep, the first two apps are really great to help you get to a point of sleep, because they have these really nice apps that, take you through a muscle relaxation or take you through a guided imagery. And by the end of it, you end up feeling very calm, and then you're able to go to sleep in a very healthy and nice way. So if you've been trying a bunch of different things for a while, these are some great ways to start getting to a place of doing some self-care, and there are reminders from the apps that keep telling you, hey, do this, like do a little relaxation, and that's always nice. So these are some good ones to start off with.
But what will help not snooze these alerts? What would help not snoozing these alerts?
At least it'll be a reminder, right? You can always choose to ignore it, but at least you know, because all of us get just caught up, right? Just caught up in the day and just caught up from moment to moment. And so it's good to just have this reminder that says, hey, you haven't done anything today for your self-care. And it's a good reminder, oh, this is why I've been feeling so frayed and, so heavy. Let me do it, let me do it. And, sometimes the reminders are good.
Thank you, Rebecca. You can take a snapshot of this slide she's put up for yourself if you want to. Rebecca, we can have a lot of teenagers with us as part of a community and otherwise as well. And these people have been told they're going to have exams next week. Oh, no, sorry, next week is going to happen 1 month from now. Oh, no, again, not 1 month from now, it's going to happen in June. And just this constant pressure that's building up and again deflating. Just generally with exams, you already have anxiousness, and now there's this peaks and troughs. How does one deal with this anxiety with exams and the changing schedules and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think that it's very hard for people with who have exams. And I was working with this one person who was, I think, going for their 10th standard exam. And from, I think, Feb, they kept hearing it's going to happen, it's not going to happen, it's going to happen, it's not going to happen. And then like last month, they just canceled the entire exam. And I remember speaking to this person and they said, I don't even know whether I'm happy or sad. I spent so long studying for these exams. I almost feel like I want to do them now. So it's like a lot of mixed emotion, a lot of like anxiety, but also excitement. And also like a lot of people, especially who are transitioning from 10th to, 11th, 12th or 12th to college, they have a lot of expectations like how college will be. But then again, it's like remote college and, again from home. So a lot of like excitement, oh, it's going to be college, but no, it's not going to really be college, it's just going to be me at home again in front of a screen. So again, a lot of mixed emotions for people. And I think that again, it's normal to have confusion, have moments of fear and trepidation, but also moments where you're excited and, looking forward to it, looking forward to your next phase. But again, like if you notice that you're not able to shake the anxiety for a long time, if you're feeling like you're getting panic attacks every time you hear about exams, if you feel like just a general sense of dread which you're just not able to shake, then again it's maybe something deeper. You may need to just kind of talk to someone and check why that's happening. But the normal thing is that sense of excitement mixed with fear, mixed with joy, mixed with excitement, like it's all like one big hodgepodge of emotions, and that is normal. That is generally normal. And also just not even knowing whether to feel excited about no exams is also another thing.
And it all depends on where you are in the class. For somebody like me, I would have been thrilled that it's not there any longer. But for somebody like you or my wife, it would have been, oh man, I'm going to miss out on something. Anyway, there's a question, Rebecca, which I think people have got this saying that they've heard about emotional journaling, and they're asking, saying, is it helpful? Are we going to be just thinking about the same things too much and dwelling on it too much? Or is it really something that's good to do? What would your thoughts be on that?
Yeah, so there's a difference between a thought journal and an emotion journal. So I think that a lot of us get
Interesting.
confused between when I do a thought journal and I end up doing a emotion journal, or I'm hoping to do an emotion journal and I end up doing a thought journal. So an emotion journal is focused on feeling,
Mhm.
right? So it's so for example, there is an incident that happens. Say you get an email from your boss saying that your performance has not been great. That is the entire gist of an email, and now I have to process it using an emotion journal. Now what people will end up doing is, I woke up, I got this email from my boss, it completely ruined my day, and my boss is always out to get me, he never picks on my colleagues, and this, I hate this company, I want to leave. Now that is not an emotion journal, and what you're doing is you're kind of underscoring all the negative thoughts, and you probably end up going on a spiral on paper. So people end up saying that I actually feel worse after writing this. I'm not feeling
Mhm.
better, I'm feeling worse, right?
Yeah.
And this is supposed to help me. But emotion journal basically is much more simplified. An emotion journal will
Mhm.
probably say, I am feeling unappreciated. I'm feeling unappreciated. I'm feeling
Mhm.
frustrated, and I am feeling like I don't know. I'm feeling like stuck in this job. Now
Mhm.
it's a different kind of journal, because I'm not just reinforcing all the thoughts and spirals, but I'm focusing on what I'm feeling. Again,
Mhm.
the power of naming an emotion goes back to what I was saying before. When I
Yeah.
name an emotion, I immediately feel lesser intensity. Then I'm like, okay. Sometimes what happens is people naturally, spontaneously reprocess. So once they write that, they'll
Mhm.
be like, but actually, this same boss last month, kind of gave me this opportunity to present my work in front of the entire team, and that was
Yeah.
great. And that's a spontaneous reprocessing. Nobody had to come in and tell you that. But when I do an emotion journal, I have the space to spontaneously reprocess, because my head is actually clearing out, as opposed to the thought journal, which is
Mhm.
just like it is just a stream of consciousness. So it's
Yeah.
actually just filling up my head. So
Yeah.
be aware of what you're writing. And I always tell people, it's better to write, if you're writing in detail, write positive stuff, because
Mhm.
you don't need reminders of the negative stuff, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So if you're writing, if you want to write stream of consciousness, write stream of consciousness about the amazing things that are happening to you, because you want to underscore and underline positive things. So a
Yeah.
lot of people will say, my day was going really well, and then this one thing happened and my day was like terrible after that.
Mhm.
It was a great day, which along with a lot of positive things, but it just took one negative thing to color the entire day. So we don't need more reminders of that one thing. Our brain already does it for us. But what
So
we
true.
do is what we do need is reminders of the positive stuff that just gets brushed under the carpet, and we just say, that's anyway, that's supposed to happen, that's okay. But sometimes that reminders of the positive things happen. So if you're writing a thought journal, I would encourage you to write about positive things and not write about negative stuff. If you're doing for processing negative things, have an emotion journal for the negative stuff. So
Mhm.
separate.
Yeah. Here's one saying, how do you utilize time in a proper way during the pandemic? Right now, we don't know what cycle we're on, which shift you're working in. Sometimes, we sleep late into the night, we wake up around 11 and start work because nobody's watching you. You just have objectives. You know the whole reel, right? So how do we kind of make our time really purposeful and meaningful?
Having a routine definitely helps in the pandemic, but not becoming the routine has to be something that naturally helps you think about what you need to do next,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to something that you are doing because you have a wishful thing that I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to get up and I'm going to work out for 45 minutes, and then I'm going to cook myself like a healthy breakfast and I'm going to eat that, and then I'm going to work. Sometimes we do wishful thinking with our routines,
Mm-hmm.
and that ends up adding more pressure to us. The routine ends up making us feel worse than actually helping us, because we are like, I'm never able to do this routine. The routine makes me feel terrible about myself.
Mm-hmm.
So have a routine that naturally fits your day. So the routine has to come out of what you're normally doing, as opposed to something you wish you could do in the most well-rounded version of yourself, right?
Yeah.
So if I normally get up at 9, then your routine should say you wake up at 9, right? And then have a step by step. Okay, what are the big, again, remember I talked about those big silos, right? I have a work silo, I have a marriage and a family and a kid. So I have to kind of plan for investing myself in all these areas and take care of myself as well. So obviously 8 hours, 6 hours is going to go in study and college and school and work. So that is your one big chunk of time is gone. Then with the rest, what do I do? So your routine actually helps you think about, okay, I should spend some time with my partner. I should spend some time, playing a game with my kid. I should spend some time doing my self-care. I have to spend some time calling my friends and my family. And that is a routine that actually helps you feel like you're making best use of your time, as opposed to saying I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and then just feeling disappointed. So think about, do that exercise where I just map out all the different areas of my life and then plan every day how I'm going to invest in them.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you. Just I have time for one last question, and I have two questions which are very similar, so I'm going to bring them together. And it says laziness, demotivation, procrastination. Is that just me, or are they related to mental health? And there's one more similar question. It says, what are some physical manifestations of anxiety and stress that I must not discount as mere physical issues?
Right. So procrastination and lack of motivation is definitely something that we're seeing more of. It's normal, it's natural, but again, the extent to which I do it. So we always have this, as psychologists and counselors, like one of the things that we have in mind to know whether people need crisis help or they don't need crisis help is how functional are you? So say because I have shut down, because I'm procrastinating, because I'm extremely demotivated to a point where I'm not able to do anything, it has affected my functionality. Functionality in the sense I'm not showering, I'm not eating, I'm not working, I've let go of my job, I've not studied for months, I'm failing my exams. So my functionality has now become very less. So then you would have to reach out for help. But say you're procrastinating, but you're still able to meet your deadlines, you're still able to get up and shower and eat and all these things, then we would say that, yeah, you are definitely struggling with some amount of procrastination and lack of motivation, but it is not in a place where you need help. So always keep that idea of functionality. Now, again, functionality doesn't mean one day, right? It's not like one day I don't shower and I don't get out of bed and I don't go to work or I call in sick or whatever. One day, weekend, that's all fine. But if it's prolonged, so I feel like it's been 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and I've just been shut down completely, then we would have to assess, okay, why is this happening? We need definitely some help. So again, scaling is important. How intense is this emotion is important. If I'm able to function through it, it's fine. And then again, it's okay, it's just a phase, it'll get better. Be aware, again, do all the exercise that we talked about, it'll help. The other question that was asked was about, can you just
physical manifestations
anxiety,
of
stomach issues, breathing issues, numbness, lightheadedness are usually some of the things that we sometimes think are just physical stuff, like I haven't eaten, but they are sometimes manifestations of anxiety. So people who have prolonged stomach issues usually have also some amount of anxiety. Irritable bowel syndrome is again something that is linked to anxiety. Having a lot of fatigue and headaches is linked to anxiety and stress. So a lot of different things, our bodies are a storehouse for our emotions. Like if I asked you, what emotion are you feeling? And if you say anger, if I ask you, where are you feeling this on your body, you'll be able to immediately locate it. I'm feeling it in my stomach, I'm feeling my chest, I'm feeling hot in my face. So your body is keeping the score of all the emotions that go through it. It's not, again, like I said, these things you're not a sieve. It doesn't just pass through you. Your body keeps a score somewhere. So, prolonged anxiety, prolonged stress, definitely has an effect on your body. It has an effect on where your body is storing all that stuff. So that's why these things like self-care, that's why these things like emotion management are so important, because these are those things that we are not realizing that it's affecting our body. even things like, skin issues, irritability in our skin sometimes is anxiety prone. And so and anxiety manifests itself in a lot of different ways. And a lot of people end up going to emergency rooms thinking they're having a heart attack, they're having some kind of neurological event, but actually they're having an anxiety attack. So it's important to be aware of how your body is taking account of these things. So always think body is always keeping the score of what's happening emotionally.
I think when you're having those events, it's just best to go to the ER because you never know. Young people get heart attacks nowadays. Young people have neurological events as well. So I think it's just best to run there and then deal with it. If it's not that, then let's come and talk to us.
Absolutely. No, but usually these events are so huge that the people around you also get a little freaked out. They're like, oh, we have to rush this person. They're not okay. Because you're literally not able to take a breath. You're literally not able to catch breath, or you literally feel like you're going to pass out. So it's not something that is not some, everyone can see that you're in distress.
Yes.
It's not something that happens silently anymore.
Yes. But I know I said that was my last question. There's one thing which has come up, which is, I think, very important to talk about. There's some of us who are in distress, but we don't know it, don't see it ourselves. Somebody sees it for us. Maybe the relationship is in distress, or maybe emotionally we're in distress. And we think it's good to meet a therapist, but they're not ready. They don't want to, they're scared. What do you do? Especially if it's a couple, if it's in marriage and you want to take your spouse with you, but the spouse is not willing. How do you deal with that, Rebecca?
Yeah, I think that, one of the things that as marriage therapists, we say that a lot of people are in therapy for people in their lives who need therapy. So it's not like, a lot of the times people are not the primary source of the distress or the conflict or the problem. The person who is the primary source of it does not want therapy and are very resistant to it. It's a very hard place. And there is no, again, right way of doing it. I think just consistency, time, giving the person a lot of resources to read, get in touch with the therapist themselves, addressing very patiently, what are your fears, what are your concerns? And especially in a marriage situation, it's hard because usually people are seeking counseling because they're already in high conflict situations. So in the high conflict situation, to then talk to the person, hey, you don't want to go to a counselor, it just adds more conflict. So, we have this statistic for marriage counselors that couples especially who, when the moment they first notice that there is something wrong and when they actually walk into a counselor's office, it's 7 years.
Wow.
So it's 7 years of escalating conflict, 7 years of baggage, of pain, of trauma, of unforgiveness, that then they go to a marriage therapist after so many years. And usually by that point, there's very, very little a marriage therapist can do. It's like, some kind of marriage damage control or whatever, but it is usually at that point, people are already on 1 foot out the door and, things are already really, really bad. So I would encourage the person who is trying to get their partner in to just be as patient with them as possible. When you're not in conflict, that time, try to suggest counseling, try to come with them to the counselor, try to have just informal conversations with the counselor so that the person gets used to the idea and doesn't feel like the counselor is going to take sides or judge them or blame them. I've had people who after their first session are like, oh, actually that was pretty nice. I was expecting a lot of blame, a lot of negativity and a lot of fighting, and we're actually okay. So it's, finding again the right counselor, the right marriage therapist is important. Finding someone who has adequate training is important.
Yeah.
So just being aware of all those things, I would say to that person, just be patient. It takes time. Like I said, 7 years is what most couples wait. So just give it time and be consistent with your partner. And sometimes what happens also is to kind of tell them that, things are not getting better and I can't stay in this situation for much longer if it keeps going like this. So let's try to fix it. And sometimes giving that sense of, we can't keep going on like this. We need to stop at some point. Sometimes helps the other person understand the gravity of the situation. So that sometimes helps.
Very true. Very true. Well, on that note, Rebecca, thank you so much for your time with us. We just loved it. There's so much to gather from this conversation, and I'm definitely going to go back and watch the YouTube video, make my own notes. I didn't get the time for that this evening, but it's been great. Thank you for being with us. I want to thank every one of you who's chosen to be with us even until the post session gets over until now. And we want to thank you for taking the time to be with us and taking the time for your own mental health care. And if you want to catch this video again, or you want to send it to someone, please visit Powai Connect's channel on YouTube. This video will be available for you there. You can share this video there. And if you want to help somebody get in touch with Rebecca, her company's name is Begin Again India, www.beginagainindia.com. So get in touch with Rebecca. Thank you so much. I wish you well, and I wish we all move from this pandemic healthier, stronger, and maybe even more emotionally fitter, because we don't know what's coming next. You don't know what China's cooking next. So I just want to say, I just pray that this whole season would be a season where we get stronger and face what's coming up. Right? And keep looking out for Powai Connect's notes on such events. We'd love to keep doing more stuff like this for you. You have our email ID now with you. If you have some ideas about what you think would be helpful for you and a lot of other people, just write into us, and we'll be happy to kind of support those larger needs that our neighborhood, our city, our nation has. Rebecca, thank you again for your time. Thank you for this space you've given us to come and just learn about things we've been so dumb about. Thank you. If you want to write into Powai Connect, just write to powaiconnect@gmail.com. Rebecca?
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for sending in so many questions. Please do reach out, even if it is just to understand if there is a therapist that will work for you. I'm happy to send you to give you referrals, and there to support you in whichever way I can. And please do reach out, and I'm happy to help. Yeah.
And if you're reaching to Rebecca, just mention you're reaching in reference to Powai Connect, and she'll be extra nice to you. Yeah.